What is the effect of Islamophobia having on the community right across the country right now, with news this morning that Lakemba Mosque has received another security threat? Just how is this affecting people's everyday lives?
Bridget, this is another Ramadan which is going to be very difficult for the Muslim community. We've seen just what's happened only in the last 2 weeks. Firstly, with the police assaulting Muslims praying outside town hall. Then this is the third letter that has been sent to Lakemba Mosque in just a month. And we have seen such racism and anti-Muslim hate being spread around over the last 2 weeks, which has really escalated. So the Muslim community is feeling under siege. We are feeling really scared and fearful. I was at an event just last week where a Muslim woman came over and hugged me, and tears were rolling down her eyes. And she was telling me how scared she felt for her family, for her children. And to be honest, I could not give her much comfort. I only hugged her tighter. That's the way the community has been feeling for the last 2 weeks. But to be honest about this, like Muslims in this country have been vilified and demonized for quite some decades now, and not much has been done by governments to push back against it. In fact, politicians in both major parties have dog-whistled, have scapegoated migrants and Muslims and international students for the problems that they did not cause, which just kind of fuels this sort of racism, and it helps legitimize and normalize it with real harm to the community.
We await to see the investigation by the Law Enforcement Commission in New South Wales into those allegations of police brutality at the protest a couple of weeks ago. In terms of government action, I mean, you've said that you're disappointed with the response from both the major parties. What would be a stronger response, do you think, from the federal government at this time when you say so many Muslims are feeling worried, anxious and scared for their lives?
Well, I just tell you the latest disappointment that I've had. We have seen One Nation escalate their anti-Muslim, anti-migrant rhetoric, saying disgusting things about Muslims just in the last couple of days. But to be honest, none of us should be shocked by that. That is their MO. That is what they have been doing for the past 3 decades. What really shocked me was the very lukewarm response by the Prime Minister and by the Labour government, not even willing to call out racism for what it is. I mean, if we can't actually call out racism, how are we going to tackle that? The Prime Minister and the Labour government need to lift their game in calling racism what it is. But we have had a framework, a blueprint for tackling systemic and structural racism in this country. For 1 year now, it has been sitting on the government shelf, gathering dust, and I'm talking about the National Anti-Racism Framework, which gives a really fantastic roadmap of how to tackle racism in this country in a systemic and structural way. And it grounds that plan in anti-racism, tackling racism against First Nations people, because that's where it starts. But the government haven't even responded to it. I think that is utterly shameful. This is something really urgent. There's a new report that has come out from the Australian Human Rights Commission and the Race Discrimination Commissioner, Racism at Universities, which shows another pretty terrifying truth of how this is not an exception at universities. Racism is not an exception at universities. It is a rule. And frankly, like, racism is eating into the promise. It is poisoning the promise of education. Now, that report has also been sitting with the government for 2 months, and the government has done nothing with it. This is urgent. If we are serious about tackling racism, then we just can't cherry-pick one form of racism while not addressing it as in a systemic and structural way.
Authorised by J. McCall, Australian Greens, Canberra.